community, you will find people that have your same goals, that have the same problems. Review work, for example, it's a great team building activity inside of a language team. And doing work, little by little, you find yourself that branching outside of your local community and outside of your referral language. And each experience that I had outside of the Italian team was a positive one, and it only further encouraged me in engaging more. It's a rewarding activity. You see your work being used, you see it in production. You find, as I said, a community of people like yourself. Incidentally, I learn a lot of things translating, because if you translate, first you read, so you learn a lot of how Debian works, how Linux works, about packages, about all sorts of things. And I will also talk about, if one's interested and has the skills to do it, or is willing to acquire them, can move and work also in other areas of Debian. Translating, it's a privileged point of observation on several things. For a translator, it's easy to spot errors in contents and in the content generation. And a translator can pinpoint what informations are missing, or could be expanded, or could be improved. Translators also have a first-hand experience with the internationalization infrastructure, and one might say that they thoroughly test it every day. And this kind of things can also be seen as a sort of informal, not structured QA work, not in the technical sense of the QA team, but on the quality of the content of what what appears to the user. And I hope that even if it's work that it's structured and it's informal, that doesn't mean that it's completely invisible or unrecognized. And if there is an issue in those infrastructure, it's translator is probably going to be among the first persons to notice it. And the question then is, would this translator report the issue? And I hope they would, and I will make a case for it, and I will make an excursus on what I think about reporting bug as a translator, which also reflects my idea on reporting bugs in general. Bug reports are not insults, and they simply say, I value your work, I value these things, and so I point out this way in which it may be improved. And on a side note, if a bug report doesn't get addressed, doesn't get considered, that also is not an insult. And I think that if a bug report is worded politely, respectfully, there is no reason to be hesitant in sending a bug report. And the same way there shouldn't be any fear in making a suggestion, provide a text, edit the wiki pages, or anything else. And to look at some examples of that, I will start from the web pages content. And this is an area where I don't have much experience, because in the Italian team, other people work on translating web pages, and they do a great work. And but this gives me the chance to talk a bit more about what I was saying earlier about the fear, the worry that suggestions or corrections are not welcome. And I have something to support my thesis, which is pages for some slides from a talk that was held last year at the DebConf 2023. And this is one slide from Thomas that works in the Debian web team. And he specifically asked translators to not limit themselves to do translations, but also review the content, which means spot errors, spot information that are missing or that are redundant, that are obsolete, so they don't need to be there anymore to take space, and there is no sense in translating something that is not that is outdated already in the original content. So why should I translate it? So see, changes, suggestions are welcome. And another example are wiki pages, and this is even an easier example because the wiki, for its nature, welcomes user editing it. So as a translator, if you spot something that is missing or that is not correct, you just have to create an account. It's easy. There's no problem in it. You click on edit and you edit the pages, and nobody has to do any other work. It's only your work, so you can unleash your grammar freak inside of you, and whatever pet peeve you have with the English language to commas and italics and whatever, you can improve the wiki and make any correction that you think are right. Another area are the package descriptions. This is an area where translation work is probably the easiest. And there are, I think now, around 70,000 package descriptions. And with so many descriptions, it's only natural that some of them have errors. And there are some errors that are more common than others. The short description that continues in the long description. Sometimes the wrong package type is stated. The description says this is a data package when it's clearly a library package, or this is a documentation package and it's a development package. Sometimes the description says look at that section below, but there is no section below. Of course, there are minor formatting issues or minor spelling mistakes, but that's not really important. But I think that if you spot something in the package description that is worth improving, then you should file a report about it. And I thought that was a common thing, and maybe it's not so common, but it's common at least in the Italian language team, so much that we created a page in the wiki to keep track of all the bugs we reported related to our work in translating the package descriptions. And sometimes we miss some, but since we started, we reported more than 250 bugs. So the question is, of course, why would we do that? And the first answer is narcissism. We see how good we are, but there is a less obvious answers. One, of course, is coordinating the work, so the same bug doesn't get reported twice. But it also gives us a sense of the impact that our work has upstream. So, I don't narcissism, but with a motivation. And it shows that even this kind of totally not formally organized work can have an impact on the overall quality upstream. Another aspect, again, is that a translator can take stock of what makes their life easier or harder, and then can try to make life easier for other translators. And of course, the priority is always the clarity of the contents for the end users. But that said, translator can suggest changes in the translation workflow, and those changes can be about the contents or the infrastructure, and I will make some examples. The first example is about contents, and it's an example that is very dear to me, and I consider it a success story, and I will get back on whether this is a success or not later. And it's about the description of the text-like something packages. For those who don't know them, they include a lot of modules, and they're basically, the description is like a long list of modules and their legal description. And in 2008, a translator for the German language opened the bug and proposed a drastic reduction of the contents of the description. And there was silence. In 2011, a French translator seconded that motion. There was a discussion about it, what contents were needed or not. An Italian translator proposed a less drastic reduction of the contents, and discussion died there. And in 2014, again, another translator, Italian from Italy, proposed a change in the formatting rather than in the content. And there was another discussion. The original person who opened the bug again worked in the discussion, another person from the Danish team, and in the end, the package was, description was changed. So now with this new format, when something changing in a description like that, when a new module is added, we, as translator, we clearly see what needs to be done. We clearly see that it's only one line that needs to be translated. While before we had like a long diff to look at. It was a pain to do. It was very easy to make mistakes. So thanks to Norbert, the maintainer, changed the format, but also because I find out researching for this talk that in another bug that was open for the same issue, for the same package, somebody complained that this description was even worse now. And he basically said, oh, translators maybe do it, which is fair enough. It's a good explanation. But he also said their work is for the users too. And that's strange because as a translator, I never even considered that point of view. And somehow I, subconsciously, I always thought there was a trade-off between ease of translation and clarity for the users. But those two things are not conflicting issues. They go in the same direction because after all, the only final goal of a translation is to make things clear for the user. There's no other goal to it. And what I like about this story, even if you don't agree with the description, is now a better description or not, is that this change was brought up by a dialogue among different parts of the Debian community, from different languages, from the maintainers, the translators. And I think that dialogue embodies the spirit of the Debian project. And what's the next battle? In the Italian team, we talk about how to be the format, to bring forward the issue of description that are changing because the version number always changing. And so our Debian maintainers here, the version number is of course an important information, but I don't think it needs to be repeated everywhere. And what you see is a fictional example, but it's kind of realistic examples of our description that we translate every day. And you see that the version number is repeated basically in every paragraph. And we would like to propose something like on the right. There is a version number in the title, which is not the title, it's the short description of this or the synopsis. And maybe it's needed in the title. A Debian maintainer is in the best position to decide if it's needed or not in the title. There could be, and some packages are already sort of like that, a first paragraph that is basically common among all the binary packages created from the same source package. Then a paragraph that states what kind of package that is. This is a driver package, this is the mutation package, and in the end, there is one paragraph that states what version number that particular package is for. And what is different in these two versions is that when the version number changes, the translator only has to change the last paragraph. Not only that, but the translation of the descriptions as the paragraph as a work unit. So if that paragraph gets translated, it becomes translated in all the other descriptions that's shared. So with translating only one line, all the updating work is done instead of translating a lot of lines in a lot of different packages and descriptions. And by the way, I think in general, this division between information that are static and information that are dynamic, that are constantly changing, is good not only for translation, but also to keep the original English content updated. And these examples were related to the contents that we translate. But if there is an issue with the infrastructure, the translation infrastructure, chances are translator is going to spot it first and not only spot problems, but as I said, point out how the workflow can be improved or suggest new features, or if nothing else, just say thanks, engage with the person maintaining the system and say thanks for their work, because their work makes our work possible. And just as an example, again from the translation of the description, Thomas Vincent, for 1 year ago, but even recently, he did it again, asked in the Debian internationalization when released for some feedback on the system interface he was working on. There were a lot of suggestions, and what you see is the issues page on Salsa, and maybe it's not clear, but a lot of those suggestions were considered, were implemented, so that's also a great thing, and that comes from the input from the translators. And lastly, as I said, if a translator has the skills to do it, they can contribute to the infrastructure, either providing patches, providing fixes, improvements, or getting involved in the maintenance. And I have two examples from the Italian team that are not mine. One is an example from the work of Daniele. Daniele works in the Italian team, and he created some Violent Monkey scripts for the web interface of the description translations. And with this script, he added some useful links, like a link to the bad.debian.org pages. You get suggestions on how to translate the short description. By the way, this script works for many features of this script work for all languages, and some features at the moment only work for Italian. So you get a suggestion on how to translate the short description. You get a notice on how long the short description is. Sometimes the short description is not short at all. There is a button for wrap to cut lines, because not all web browsers cut the lines correctly. There are two buttons to copy in the right paragraph, either the old translation, this works only for Italian, or the original English text, which is very good thing to work on. There are some customizable buttons, the one you see at the bottom, to add in the comments. In the Italian team, we use a lot the comments to coordinate our work when we do the translator. And lastly, in the review page, you get human readable timestamps instead of Unix timestamps. And another Italian translator, Sev, proposed a patch to generate a page that lists all the descriptions that were previously translated, and they are not anymore. So basically, the description was updated. And if you don't keep track of that, all that work gets lost. And instead, this way, you know that you can start working on updating something that probably only needs one line translated. And that works, the URL shown, it's for the Italian, but it works for every other language in the system. We just change the language code to characters language code at the bottom. And I'm nearing the end of my talk, and what I wanted to show, what I wanted to talk about was how translation can be like a trampoline to get more and more involved in Debian. Not that there is anything wrong with sticking to translations. I myself stuck to translation, and but even myself, I managed to branch out at least a tiny bit. Like I said, you can learn about the Debian organization. You can come into contact with many different teams, many different realities. You can find some Debian things that you have some affinity with, so you can decide to join the team. There are a lot of areas to work on, and previous talk showed us how many areas work is needed in Debian. And overall, I just wanted to say that just because you are simply a translator or just a translator, that does not mean that in some way that you don't have to be or feel as part of the Debian community as a whole, and then you don't bring something to the Debian community as a whole. And that's all. I think I went very quick. So if you have any questions.
Hey, hello. I'm Paulo from Brazil, and I'm a part of the translator team in Brazil. I'd like to know how many members actually working do you have in Italian team today?
Oh, that's very difficult because we tend to be very silent in the mailing list, and each one of us does their own thing. And unless there is a problem, then we kind of spring up like mushrooms, so that we be very silent in the mailing list for months and months. And then there is somebody that has some problem, and suddenly we realize we are still alive or we are still working. I don't know, there are at least 4 people working constantly on the package description. I think at least other 3 or 4 people that works on the web pages. I know that when I checked, for example, the last time that I checked if the installer interface was translated, because we were worried that maybe it was not being updated. The translator did update it, but we didn't talk about it. There was no mention in the mailing list. So I would think at least around or at least 10 people I would say probably. We have some new contributors. That's another story. When I say that you find the community and you build a community that review work, for example, for us at least, it's a huge team building activity. We start discussing on how to translate that word on that way or in another way. That also, of course, depends on how thriving is a community, because if a language team is only made of one person, that could be sort of a not good for the morale, let's say. And so bringing new translators is more complicated, I think, because partly because there are more people that know how to speak English, so maybe it's felt like it's less needed. I've been asked, and we talked about it in the Italian team, whether it's still necessary to translate today. I think yes, otherwise I would be losing my time. But
It's nice. And what is your favorite part of translate? Do you prefer translate this text description, website, or
No, actually I prefer code-based translation. I prefer to translate some long documents because I feel like that I can give a sense of continuity, of coherence to the work. I feel like it's more my translation. The problem is that takes time. And so even though I translated some user documents, the Debian reference, and the translator of that, the release notes, I'm the translator of that, but I basically do only the update work. I would not have the time anymore now with my work to start something like that. And I find that, for example, translating description, that's a thing I understand. Not only it's very easy, but it really takes a little time. I find sometimes that in the evening, I just open the translation and translating 2 or 3 descriptions is just like a stress relief. And you can do it in really like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So there are other translators I can review a couple of translation very easily. And that's, so I do a lot of work there, not because I like it, but it's really easy to do and it's really quick. And I have the time to do it. So,
okay, I have some comments or questions. First, I was really wondering that there are package version numbers in the package description. Yeah. I think
there is the metadata for that, but
because in the package description there's a line saying version, so I would guess we should remove this to not have the version in the description because that's useless. Or do you think it makes sense to have a version number?
I think most time, firstly, I don't think I have the technical skill to make up an opinion on that. I think from what I saw, it has a sense when you can have 2 versions of the same thing at the same time.
Major versions like Python 2, Python 3, yeah, sure.
But for example, you mentioned Python. Recently, it was updated to 3.13. Every time that happens, we have to retranslate like dozens of packages just to say this is the binary package for the current Python version, currently 3.15.
Yeah. So this is my impression, and hello to all package maintainers, please remove the version number because this is useless work for the translators and they can do more important things.
I imagine it's useless for them too, even so maybe they have an automatic system that just puts the version number there.
Yeah, but for you, it would save time. Another thing, you said that you made some bug reports about translation issues, and you said, for example, the example with Cache Live, it took some years to another discussion. Yeah. I think also that you have a better view which kind of description is good for the end users, because we, with the technical background, often are too technical concentrated, but the package description is for the end users. So I think it's really true that you say sometimes we have a better idea how the description could be changed. I think this was a very good example with Cache Live, but what I thought, it took like 6 years to change it. Yes. So again, to the Debian package maintainers, if there comes something from a translator to make an improvement, please value this work of the translators and do not wait for so long time to give them feedback and then accept this. So I saw this also in bug reports to the web page. So there was someone saying, the content on the web page should be improved, and then for months or even years, and sometimes even 10 years, nothing happened. And imagine if you would do a bug report and 5 years later, you get the feedback from the developer or from whoever cares about this. We should, value bug reports more and have the feedback in a timely manner, in a reasonable time, and not after years. That would encourage more people to contribute to Debian. And thank you for your work in translation.
Thanks.
I had to sign translator for Chinese. And, for PO files translate, do you have used the weblet?
No.
Oh.
I actually no.
Oh.
I use a Poedit now.
Oh.
I used to use Virtual, which is not in Debian anymore.
About the weblet, I had see discuss mail in mail list. That one want to set up a weblet Debian already. How do you think so? Use a weblet to translate the Debian PO files.
So that's an interesting question. I am ambivalent about that. We had a bad experience in the Italian team with the weblet translations because maybe because we are lucky that we have enough translators. We think that sometimes weblet can lead to inconsistencies because everybody can translate just one line in a profile. If you have a long, that's not a problem if it's a short text. But if you have a guide that it's chapters and chapters long, and each person comes and translates just one line, you end up with the same things called in two, three, at least in Italian language, called in 2, 3 different names in different parts of the documents. And think how confusing it is if the guide says, click on the button called Beatrice. Then you open the application and the button is not called Beatrice, it's called Torracca. You get lost. And that's what that's the problem we had. And this is why I'm ambivalent about it. I think that at least a final review would be very good. Somebody that at the end reads everything and checks that everything is consistent, that it's coherent, and not that the same things as 3 or 4 different names or the style is different in the text.
I didn't understand. You for the content of weblet should be has some strict to people have some people have the technical level to join the weblet translate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Okay.
That's true. But it's not. I have to say this: that it's more the fear of using profiles that the real difficulties of using profiles. And really, what I was saying at the beginning is that if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's really not. So I understand that one might be intimidated by the fact of having to install a program or use it, but it's really not all that difficult. But it's true. Weblet, it's the same way that the interface to the translated description, it's very easy.
I think in Debian, I think Debian has a way to resolve this question. For example, use the slash content line to contribute to the weblet Debian. Yes, it's Debian Conf registered the weblet to Debian.
Yes, I think there are some projects in Debian that are already using that, including the Debian reference that I am a translator for Italian, uses weblet from some languages and not from others. That's each language chooses to either use weblet or not. It's true that it's much easier, it's less intimidating, and it's more immediate.
So yeah, just on that, just to add comment to that question, I think anytime we think of lowering the barrier of a system like WebLate is a web application, so no one would need to install anything. Just that you invite more people to contribute, but on the flip side is that maybe you reach more people, but how many of those will be really engaged as a team? Because then there's some people that come, just translate 1 or 2 sentences and then disappear. And then you don't have maintenance, you don't have a long-term or consistent work.
I also think that you don't have the same attachment to the translations. We had some cases in the Italian team where somebody said, no, that's my translation. Like, you know what I mean? If you translate a long document, you sort of feel like it's your creature. You get an attachment. You want to see it up-to-date. You want to see it without errors. If you just translate 2 or 3 lines, then you don't get really not involved, but you don't get yes. That's a, I think that's also an issue, and it's easy to just translate some lines and then maybe get bored, but it's true that it's way easier. That makes sense.
So do you think that, so as far as I know, at least for the web pages, the translator need to use Git, and this is a barrier, so we get less translator, but then the people that work for a longer time, or would you be happy to do translation without using Git?
I would be happy either way.
Yeah, and other translators, do you think Git is a barrier for?
Again, I think we are lucky in the Italian team because what we always had in these cases was to say to new translators that they could just translate the file and send the file to someone else who then made the commit.
Okay, good.
And that, by the way, it's always the case. It's usually Giuseppe.
Okay, good.
Also, to at the first times to check that things were done properly, that the website compiled properly.
We're going to 5:45 because it's a long talk, so it's 45 minutes, and then we'll.
One more question. If you have a new joiner in your team, Italian team, usually they ask in Brazil. They usually ask, how can I start to translate something? In your team, what kind of task do you suggest for new joiner? Like translated this, translated that.
We usually, if they don't ask for something specific, one thing we try to do, and so far I think we succeeded, is to give an answer at least in 1 day maximum. Somebody does, either if someone else does, I'm happy. Otherwise, I step in and do. I personally, I have like a couple of pre-formatted mails. What I suggest usually are, of course, to try from the packages description because they can start right away. But another thing that I translate, that I suggested, because I as I said, I don't think they are so scary, is to translate the DebConf files, the file of because they are quite short. You can make a complete translation in a little amount of time. We always have a review process, or we try to always have a review process in the Italian team. So we say, if you translate a short profile, we can send it to the list, and we can right away tell you if there's something that is not right. But as soon as it's right, you can send it as a wishlist mark, which is the way to translate that file. So that's the 2 things that we suggested.
Can you hear me? Okay. Also, let's thanks Beatrice for coming here, give the talk.
You're welcome.
Now, just one announcement since we're here. We will have a talk about localization and internationalization. So I'd like to invite everyone, especially Beatrice. So, thank yes, and she will also have a workshop tomorrow about translation. So you are all invited.